Well, Dan, good seeing you today. And welcome everybody to our third blog session and with the Abundant Life Training Center. And I hope that you all have been doing well. And Dan and I are been talking today about maybe some health and fitness, and I think what we want to lead into today is how are you doing with your nutrition? How are things going with how you're eating? Are you happy with it? Are there some things you want to change about it? Or do you need an overhaul? I think a lot of people are in a lot of different places. So we're going to kind of jump in on the front side here and just talk a little bit about nutrition. And one thing that I think has always been important to look at is what does your plate look like? How are you building your plate? And where are you starting? You know, uh, Dan, portion wise, what have you always looked at when you build your plate?
Yeah, so first of all, let me just give a little bit of context first on where I'm coming from. Um, so I owned a gym business for close to 20 years. I've trained a lot of people. I don't know how many people. I've trained a lot of people over 20 years of training people. Had the ability to help a lot of people, see a lot of people get really good results. I've also seen a lot of people that were really struggling in the area of nutrition. Spent several years traveling around the country, studying with some of the best health and fitness experts that I could find, and really turned myself into a guinea pig. And so when you talk about nutrition, you name a style of eating, I've probably tried it. I've seen the good, the bad, the ugly, everything in between. And the biggest thing I keep coming around to is, well, first of all, there's so much information out there. Number one, there's so, especially now today, there's so much information that's out there on the internet right now. You start Googling, you start going on to AI, you start searching around for what to eat. There's so many different opinions. Number one, how do you know who to believe? That was the thing that I really struggled with because I'm traveling around the country. I'm studying with these really smart health and fitness people, but they're contradicting each other. One person's saying to eat this, the other person's like, don't ever eat that. How do you know who to believe? I mean, it's really confusing, right? It's really confusing. How do you know who to believe? That's where you got to start. And the difference for me began to be when I began to get into my Bible. I really started studying my Bible diligently and using it as a filter for truth. Using my Bible as a filter for truth that, wait a minute, God designed my body. He knows how I'm supposed to eat. And so there's a scripture in Ecclesiastes that says a person that fears God avoids all extremes. A person that fears God avoids all extremeness. So what I focus on now, I think the most important thing with nutrition is that it's balanced. And so we create a balanced plate of food. Now let me unpackage that a little bit. What does that even mean? What does it mean to be balanced? Because you might have a different idea than what I think balanced is. And so the way I understand it is this is I want to create as much as possible where my calories are balanced across the different categories of food. So, for example, if I'm getting 100 calories of vegetables, 100 calories of, let's say, some kind of starch like a potato or a grain or something like that, and let's say 100 calories of a protein, well, on a plate, 100 calories of spinach or broccoli is going to be a pretty big amount. Whereas 100 calories of rice is like, much smaller, or 100 calories of steak or chicken or something like that is going to be much smaller. So on my plate, it's going to look unbalanced as far as visually, like there's way more vegetables than there are the other stuff. It's going to look unbalanced, but it's actually balanced from a nutrition and calorie perspective. So when I say a balanced meal, I mean I'm getting similar balance level from the different kind of food groups. But it looks unbalanced because the volume of those foods is going to be different to get the number of calories. Does that make sense? And so what I think of is building a plate is I think of basically half my plate with vegetables or fruit and vegetables. And I try to get as many colors as possible because the different colors of foods nourish different systems in your body. So if you eat every color every day, then you're nourishing all the different systems in your body. So I think of it as a lot of fruits and veggies. And then I try to keep it balanced where I'm having some good carbohydrates. So it could be potato, sweet potato, quinoa, a little bit of rice, those types of things. And then I have some protein and I'm trying to balance my calories across those. And then I also want to have a little bit of healthy fats as well, things like olive oil, nuts, seeds, avocado, those types of things. But I don't know. What am I missing, Kelvin?
Yeah, that's, I think, perfect.
Yeah.
Like I say, we're just going to hit kind of a highlight reel today, just kind
Hmm.
of spark some thought processes and things like that. And, we could definitely spend hours, if not days, just
Yeah.
on that subject. But I think
Yeah.
I think it's like Dan was mentioning, there's many, many ways to do it, but I think you got to find your way. You got
Hmm.
to find your way. And if you're kind of using that premise that Dan just talked about of building your plate nutritionally, and even though it's balanced nutritionally, it's unbalanced by the way you look at it. You can decipher through that because you're going, hey, and if your goal is to move forward healthy, then like Dan said, how many colors can you get in a day? That's almost like a game to play. You
Hmm.
know, I need to get as many colors as possible. And then how much protein do I need? How much starch do I need? How much, and he laid it out pretty good that you can kind of look at it, you know, as just a fundamentally way to start.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then that way, as you get going, you at least have a starting point, a
Yeah.
very simple starting point.
Yeah.
And then you can start looking at how am I going to make that into a change, then make that into a habit, and then make that into a lifestyle
Yeah.
so that you can change where you're at.
Yeah.
It's like with myself recently, I dropped about 25 pounds and I had to come up with a vision. How was I going to eat? And Dan described almost perfectly how I ate. I put about a palm size piece of protein out there. I would have a huge plate of veggies and I would limit my starch.
Hmm.
And, so I would build my plate like that every meal.
Yep.
And so, but the time and consistency through that, I was able to spend the last 3 months just systematically working that out.
Hmm. Well, and I would say
So,
the other big things you always got to consider with nutrition is you got, the quality. So what are you eating? Building your plate and trying to get good quality food in, get your nutrition in. But then the quantity is another huge factor. So I think quality, quantity, and timing of when you eat what you eat. So I think the quality is probably the biggest determinant for health factors. It's probably the biggest thing that determines your health. The quantity, if you're really wanting to lose weight or gain weight, you got to pay attention to the quantity. You got to
mhm.
pay attention to the quantity some. And so, but people think that way less is way better. Well, the reality is you need enough food to fuel your body so that you feel good, you can perform well, you can do the things that you need to do. You need enough money to operate your body well, sufficiently. You think about it like a business. If you cut all the expenses, well, it's going to hurt your business some if you cut out everything that you need to operate the business. You need enough to operate in a healthy way, but not so much that you're holding on to the fat.
Mhm.
I think for most people, if you're trying to lose weight, the magic formula is to figure out how much do I need to operate my body in a very healthy way, but not enough to hang on to the body fat. And if you can figure out where that sweet spot is, that's where most people are going to do best. And then the timing of the meals really affects your workout performance. It affects your energy levels throughout the day. And that's where I feel like timing is very, very individualized and kind of unique to the person. You got to figure out like what is the formula that works best for you based on your daily schedule, your activity levels, what you got going on in a day, how you digest food, uh, all those things are factors. So,
Okay. Well, Dan, thank you for that.
yeah.
And I think the last thing we want to just throw at you today is what is a tip you can use to maybe now strengthen your body? You're going to feed it. Now, what's a tip we can give you to strengthen your body? And I've learned this from Dan, and that is called easy strength. And so there's a thing that's called dailies. What can you do daily
Hmm.
that can focus you on strengthening your body so that your temple for God is being kept strong and vibrant to serve Him?
Hmm.
So, a couple things that Dan shared with me 7 years ago was how could I do some air squats, some push ups, and take those into a daily routine? And so, what I started out with, I didn't just jump down and start knocking out 50 push ups. That just wasn't going to happen. I hadn't done them in years. And even air squats, where you just drop, your fanny down about even with your kneecaps, you
Yeah.
know. I might be able to just go a quarter of the way.
Hmm.
So what it is, he taught me is find out where are you today? What can you do without being sore or minimally so? And what can you do easily? So guess what I started out with? I started out on my knees with 5 push-ups. That was it. Then I did a quarter air squat 5 times. And then I kept showing up every day. Whereas now, you know, I can take a 10-pound weight and I can do an air squat with it, an air, and do 10 of those, 20 of those. Same way with push-ups. I'm doing 2 sets of 20 push-ups, but they're very easy. They don't tax me, but yet I'm at it every day and I'm finding things happen to my body that keep me ready. And I'll just give you, something that happened to me, but it was about a year, maybe year and a half after I started working on these dailies that Dan showed me. And I just happened to be walking up to my car after visiting one of my kids, and my toe hit the edge of a step. And I mean, I'm going straight down, and there's a step right in front of me coming right towards my face. And I just stuck my hands out and I stopped myself about a foot from that step. But by doing those dailies, my body was able to react to that in a manner that kept me safe.
Hmm.
And what would have happened if I hadn't been doing anything?
Yep.
My body might not have moved quick enough. I might not have been able to stop the full weight of my body, and I might have got hurt. And it's just amazing that if we create a habit of these things daily, it's going to continue to serve us. It's going to help us to serve others.
Yep. You're opening up so many things I want to talk about now.
Well, you got 2 minutes.
I got I need like 2 hours.
I know.
I need like 2 hours. But I think, like I said, I've been training people for a long time, and I feel like it's something that God has taught me to do. I take a completely different approach than almost anybody else that I know. Well, we take a gentle approach. There's a Bible verse in Colossians that says the world promotes the harsh treatment of the body, and it seems like wisdom, but it's not really wisdom. Is the summary of the verse. I'm not going to be able to quote it exactly correct, but that's the summary of what it says. God's way is gentle. And if you'll take that first step by faith, it says, all right, this is where I am, this is what I can do reasonably, comfortably, as just something to get started. And then you'll grow that thing over time. You will be amazed at where it will take you. I was talking to a guy the other day. We've been training for, I don't know, maybe 3 months, something like that. And we didn't start in a very good place. Couldn't do much when we first started. He was having trouble where he was falling pretty regularly, things like that. And he just told me the other day, he said, I was doing some things out in the yard and I started to go down, but I caught myself. 3 months ago, I would have fallen and it would have been bad. But I caught myself because I've been training. That's huge. Just talking to somebody else the other day. Young girl, really young girl, needed to get stronger. She had some health issues going on, needed to get stronger. We've been training for not even 2 months, probably. And she said, I was able to pick up some things around the house that I wasn't able to do before. And was able to do it, and I felt confident in it. I didn't have that confidence before. And so these things, you just start working on them. You're going to get more confident. You're going to build momentum. So many good things start happening that you don't even expect to happen if you just start putting it into practice. So start small, figure out what you can do. And same goes for nutrition. Like people get overwhelmed, they don't know where to start. Just start, build a balanced plate, get started. There's the tendency to put it off to tomorrow, but tomorrow never comes. Just start. Make it very simple, make it very easy. Just start. Get it in motion. And you're going to trust that as you do, God's going to show up along the way also.
Yeah.
So,
And Dan, I'd like to leave everybody with a scripture today. But if you were to look up Psalms 103, 1 through 5, and especially the verse 5,
mm-hmm,
this is the vision I caught with Dan 7 years ago. Because I was coming out of some pretty significant health issues myself that, one of these days we'll go into that and how God cured me and healed me. But it says, He will restore our youth like the eagles.
mm-hmm.
And 7 years ago, I got a vision with Dan that by the time I turn 70, I want to be stronger than I was at 60. And here I am at 66, and I am tracking to be stronger at 70 than I was 60.
Yeah.
And it's just been the gentle approach. It's been the consistency. And it's just been, letting this time that I work out be a time of worship also,
Mm-hmm.
you know, that I can worship God through my exercise. And so that is a very gentle approach, very counterintuitive to what a lot of people have heard. Dan, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom today. It's just been an insight.
Yeah. This is fun. This is fun. You
Okay.
got you got to next time coming up sometime soon, we need to do one on breaking some myths about aging
Okay.
because I've trained a lot of people in their 60s, their 70s, their 80s, and a couple over that. And most of the stuff that's being taught about what's supposed to happen when you get older is not true.
Yeah.
And we need to talk about that at some point.
I think we could
Uh,
have fun with that too.
yeah, that would be a fun one. But if anybody's curious about learning more, got several resources. We've got a book and a course called Cracking Heaven's Code that has a lot of this health information in it. That's actually how Kelvin got started with me. Uh, Cracking Heaven's Code. We've got another new book coming out called The Lord Who Heals You, which should be out sometime in the next couple of months here. I have a book and a course on that. And then we got several other programs that I think would be helpful as well. You can go to abundantlifetrainingcenter.com. You can find more information about there if you're curious for more. We also got some free resources on that page there with some things like mobility and flexibility routines and things like that as well. But this has been fun, Kelvin. I appreciate it.
Okay, Dan, thank you. Hope
Hmm.
everybody has a blessed day. Take
Yep.
care.